Welcome back to World this morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Shiza Hashmi only today, since Shizad is not joining us. And for all those who just joined in the first segment, we were discussing International White Can Safety Day, because it was today, and we had some brilliant guests over. And if you missed it, you can watch the repeat at 5 past 11 in the night. But moving on, in this segment, we are going to discuss something that is very important, but it's sort of neglected and overseen as well. Now, on the 17th of October, a few days from now, we will be observing International Ethics Day all around the globe. And what is the significance of that? I mean, when you hear the word ethics, this is something you've studied in your syllabi a lot. But do you actually know the meaning of it? Does it actually mean the same for everyone? I mean, my personal belief is that ethics is your personal moral values and beliefs. So it should be different for me. It should be different for my, let's say, producers, my cameramen. So that is what we're talking about today with a person who is very aptly here to talk about it. Mr. Sajjeed Aslam on my right-hand side, who happens to be the head of ACCA Pakistan and who is a professional accountant. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So how do you feel today?
No, it's great. It's quite exciting as well while we are talking about the ethics, which is quite close to my heart as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, since I was just talking a few seconds ago, is it true that I feel like ethics is different for everyone? Is there a standardized, you know, system that, okay, this is what counts as ethics in Pakistan, or this is what counts as ethics in the US?
I think when we define ethics, definitely there is a certain component which goes to the individual personality. But when we talk about the society, we talk about the profession, then that society or profession should represent consistently a certain behaviors which they can be identified with. For example, if you talk about Japanese, you will talk about the hardworking. If you talk about Chinese, you will talk about the result orientation. These are the work ethics which they have developed over the period. And similarly, if you come down to Pakistan and you talk about what is our ethical values, so you will find different profession talking about different things, different individuals talking about different things.
Now, for a journalist, some ethical values might be different for a person who's probably an accountant or a businessman, right?
Oh, that's fine. But that profession, that if somebody is journalist, so they have to represent those ethical values consistently. The word consistently is more importantly.
Right.
It's a behaviors which we learn over the period, which we practice over the period. It's important in the education, but it's more important in the training side of it. And that's a key representation. Like every journalist is a representation of the journalist as a whole. It's a community. Similarly, professional accountants are the representation of the professional accountant. But above all, as a Pakistani, we are representation of the Pakistanis, right? So then if I'm working abroad or if I'm interacting with somebody, they should see me consistently demonstrating certain behavior which they can relate back to Pakistan. Just giving you a most important area which right now we are struggling, or we see that big struggle, is the CPAC itself, where the Chinese are coming and working with us, and they are finding it difficult just because they have altogether different work ethics.
Absolutely.
And then when they work with Pakistanis, they struggle that what are the work ethics there?
Professionalism,
because the professionalism, everybody is demonstrating altogether different type of behavior there, where if they are working, they have got a 7 defined work ethics which they use to really judge a person whether the person is working in the right direction. Laziness, that's something which is written there, is a crime there. They clearly state that in a work ethic, it's a crime.
Well, if it was a crime in Pakistan, everyone would be in jail. I personally myself as well.
Definitely. Like these are the things, how we are using those 8 to 10 hours in the work. Are we generating results or activity?
Is it productive or not?
Exactly. And if you go back at, there was in 2013-14, I was talking about issue around Pakistan, character or capacity. So when we evaluated even using the data, capacity is not our issue. It's a character. We are really, really up there to deliver something which we are supposed to. Can people trust us? If I make a promise, will people rely on that I'll keep that promise? These are the very small things which we see in everyday life. And these are the fundamental dilemmas which can be overcome only with the trainings, and then not training in a school or college, but in our families as well, in our social interactions as well. How we will handle these dilemmas, how we will really see whether it's ethical or legal. There are a lot of things which are legal, but not ethical.
Absolutely.
So there are certain dilemmas which we need to understand, be aware of, and then create an appropriate response to those.
Now, but so, you know, I do happen to know that segment of the society as well, of the, you know, of people who work, who would actually forget their ethics to achieve something greater, which is momentary. Let's say it's materialistic, okay, it's for a moment only, they will forget about it, they will get over it eventually. But is it worth it to compromise your ethics for something?
In the long run, no.
Yeah.
The answer is very, very clear. In the long run, no. You might find some short-term gains, but as as an individual and as a society, we will be losing that. Like in ACCA, ethics is a part of the profession. Not only that they have to comply, they have to learn that. More importantly, they have to demonstrate that. And if they miss out on that, they will lose their qualification. That's the beauty of the ACCA.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's
So
called
strict rules.
It's a strict rules, and it can go by the complaint. Somebody can complain that the one of our professional accountant belongs to ACCA is not reflecting the right behavior or ethical behavior, and then there's an investigation and everything will start. So they take that that thing very close to their hearts, and it's a rule book thing which we have to really rely on.
Right, but why only in ACCA, since you mentioned yourself as well that, and I personally know that since the professions that I've worked in, being a student as well, there's no, straight or strict definition of this is what you should implement as a person. Why only in ACCA? Why should not other departments adopt that as well?
I think as a code of ethics, you will find a couple of other professions who have got with
there's a
code of ethics, right? And there's a code of conduct as well. But whether it's really implemented, that's become a question. And to stand by. And then ethics are not rules; these are principles. And if even I'll go to the next level. If you talk about the parliamentarians, if you talk about the senators, if you talk about the government side, so in some areas, not all, and that was a surprise as well, in some areas they have got a code of ethics. But who is taking it seriously and really implementing it and making sure the people follow through that? There are examples where people are very ethical and there are people who are not. But as a representation of the institutions, it's become very difficult where to rely and where not to. That's become to the personal judgment, not to the institutional image, that if you are dealing with that institution, you are bound to find ethical behavior. This is not the reputation which most of the institutions enjoy in Pakistan at the moment.
Okay, I get that. But generally speaking for Pakistan, what must count as an, generally speaking again, as an ethical issue? We're not talking in terms of a working place, working environment or school, as a citizen, as a Pakistani citizen.
I think you can demonstrate that through the examples. For example, observing the signals. That's a very fundamental thing. So there's a rule, but there's a principle that you should not be crossing the line if there's a red one, right? And similarly, if I'm dealing with a shopkeeper and I go in an everyday basis, and then there is a trust deficit which we see there, because we always have a doubt on the other person. So the starting point is that we have to trust our judgments, number one. Then we have to trust ourselves that we are, in any case, we are going to demonstrate the ethical behaviors which are right, and it should be based on the right value set. And even if the time is not good, I should be demonstrating the same value set or behavior which I should be doing in a good times as well.
Absolutely.
So as a social fiber, I think that's where it goes. If you say define that this is ethical or this is not, so I think we know that fundamentally. Our heart always tell us that we are doing something which is right or wrong. But there is a more information and knowledge which is available. And then again, going back to that, if you talk about a family, so you will know certain families, and families are known for their names. And whether they are a business family, they are good families, they are the business family, which may not enjoy the similar reputation which the other families are enjoying. It's just that their family practices which they carry out in everyday life, in their everyday interaction, socially or professionally.
Okay, now, but also, Mr. Sajjeed, since we are talking about it, let's look at it in a different way. Now, this is a two-sided story. The part where we mentioned that even, some higher officials and even people who work in different capacities and students are sometimes, they compromise their ethics, let's say, to achieve some other goals. But they're not the only people. The people who are offering incentives are there as well. I mean, I personally know. My dad was in a ruling capacity for a very long time in southern Punjab. He used to serve in the armed forces. So anyone who wanted him to do something would come up with something in their hand, probably a basket full of, let's say, fruits, or probably, you know what I'm talking about, right? Flowers, or so many things that I cannot even mention over here. To which my dad would be flipped out. So he's not the sort of person, and which is why I absolutely thank him for imparting these values in us, because he's not the sort of person. He'd flip out. He'd be like, ये चीज़ें बाहर छोड़ के आओ मेरे ऑफिस के अंदर. Like, I'm here to help you. This is what my role is. So this is not only one side of the story. Both of the sides are actually sort of contributing to the same issue, right?
Definitely, it's not a one-sided story. But once it's come to you gave a very right example where the person stood up for their values which they believe in, and that's what we call dilemma. can we accept that gift as a cultural thing, or should I use my position and be very, very clear that this is something which is not acceptable? If I have to do something, I'll do it if it's right. I'll not do it because there's a basket of fruit sitting out there. Right?
Exactly.
So this is normally, yes, you will always get into that dilemmas where the people will be coming to you and incentivizing you, but how you will hold up your public trust, or how you will really maintain those ethical values, that's come to an individual. Ethics start with the individual, then goes to family, and then it forms society, and then it forms nation.
Now, so very quickly, we're very short on time, but I want you to highlight this one thing. If we do stick to ethical values in different sectors of, inside Pakistan, is that going to eventually probably boost the economy as well?
I give you a very simple example. The work ethic, regardless whatever profession you are in, it changed the productivity. How much time I'm really using and putting effort in, and how much I'm focused on the result. Changing a productivity of an individual definitely going to change the overall GDP. So there is a direct link with the work ethics versus the GDP if you really compare it. And if you're talking about export of services, then we are talking about the foreigners relying on your youth, that if they are technically savvy, they are IT, they are professional accountants, they are lawyers, if they are committing something over the net, they will deliver that as well. So this is also a trust factor which these ethical practices bring to Pakistan as well. And that will change your export dynamics from a goods to services, and the youth is something which is our largest natural resource right now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Sajjeed, for being here. I'm sorry we're short on time, but you spoke so rightly. And for all those who missed, you actually missed on something very great. So, tune into PTV World again at 11:05 in the night. And I missed, very rightly said, it is an individual role. If you want your country to prosper, you have to stick to your ethical values individually as well, because the productivity is going to be great in the end. Write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of World This Morning. On Twitter, World This Morning without a G. On Daily Motion and YouTube, World This Morning, World This Morning. And repeat, as I said, 11:05 in the night. Stay tuned to PTV World for more shows, and take care. Good morning.